Hello, everyone. This is Raj Soren, Black Belt Mindset and Business Coach. I'm very fortunate this afternoon we have Tim and Alison Cooper, and they run a travel agency, but a lot more than that. And we get to know them and a bit about their background as well as what they offer. So, Alison, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, well, we're both ex-teachers. I did language degree, marketing qualification, worked in marketing in my 20s and then switched to teaching languages. So underpinning all of that was a desire to travel because I wanted to use my languages abroad, really.
Yeah.
A similar sort of thing. I ended up in teaching, being a maths teacher, though that was by being a policeman, and some sports incentivation for rugby league in Newcastle roles. But yeah, it's essentially I was a teacher for about 30 years. But when Alison and I realised that we could go into travel, we thought, oh yeah, we could do that very well.
Yeah.
So what led you to getting into travel? Because it's quite a big difference from teaching.
Yeah, well, one of my marketing roles was for a travel company down in Kent. I was marketing holidays, but on the other side of the fence. And I really had liked the industry. We started using a couple who are local to us, who are also in the same franchise, if not just travel. And we'd done one holiday with them and booked another. We knew how good they were and how good the service was and the pricing and so on. And I just made a glib comment when we were sorting out extra legroom seats for Tim. I said, I wouldn't mind doing what you're doing. And within minutes, she'd sent me through some links for us to look into it. Mm-hmm. And within a week, we went down to Stratford, didn't we, to an event, met one of the directors and some of the other travel consultants. And 2 days later, we signed up. Yeah. So that was late 2019, and then I trained in January 20. So the timing then was not great for the COVID year or two, but we kept going, and it's good. It's all good now.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. So not just travel. Tell us a bit about that setup.
Well, not just travel to start with, and it isn't different really. It's a franchise. The main advantage we get from the franchise. Well, one's training and access to a very large knowledge base, but the other one is commission from lots of suppliers. And that means that we essentially charge the same as going direct to a lot of suppliers and practically every cruise line. And also,
but we give the extra service and do the research, and as well, not just travel is part of Hayes Independent Group, which if ever things go wrong, like one of our suppliers went into receivership, senior people at Hayes are helping push things along to get refunds and so on. So they're the biggest travel company in the country, so it isn't a bad thing to have them in the background, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So you're getting the clout of the big boys with the intimate service of the smaller setup that we are.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. I've got a holiday booked with you to Morocco, so my wife and I are really looking forward to that. I find it quite a headache sometimes trying to organize everything. So what, do you sort of help people like myself to get rid of some of those headaches? How do you do that?
One is the first and obvious headache is, well, we don't want to go to Mallorca again, so where do we go? Kind of question. Or we've always heard we've got quite a few of our friends have tried cruise. Perhaps we should try it. That sort of question, you should be able to answer it on the internet, but of course you just get overwhelmed with everything out there. Alison and I are very good at just teasing out the thoughts, the possibilities, and that does make us stand out.
Also, we're not out to fleece people. We don't try and push everyone to the top of the budget because we want repeat business and we want people to recommend us. And you know, we've done many small bookings, and if we treat everybody just the same, hopefully they will recommend us and come back to us, and maybe they'll win the lottery and do a bigger booking. You know, who knows? But you know, we get a lot of pleasure out of the small bookings and out of the bigger ones, you know. People buy from people, don't they? And we try to treat people right. We give We give little thank you gifts. We send cards. We keep in touch. We don't just make the booking and run. We, keep in touch throughout. So
Brilliant.
And we
and do
usually check,
people's check-ins. Yeah.
and usually check everything's all right before travel, even though it almost certainly is. And when they come back, everything go all right.
Yeah.
Any thoughts,
Yeah.
observations?
People do forget sometimes what to do in last minute panic, things like that. So it's reassuring to have you there to guide them.
Even when they're away, we get all sorts of issues that we do more than most with, I think.
Yeah.
Recently, we had somebody in Florida. When they arrived the first morning, they opened the kitchen drawer in their villa and there was a gas leak. And I said, off you go. And I then got in touch with the out of hours team and they got that sorted. And, things like that, going that extra mile, really. Yeah,
and weirdly, it's one of those situations where it was a villa. So they got dropped off at it. Here's the keys, crack on. And they literally had nobody to go to.
Well, they had some local people, but it was out of hours.
Yeah, you can panic in situations like that. It can really ruin your holiday, can't it?
Yeah. So their best solution was to literally ring back across the Atlantic, us, and say,
WhatsApp, and then we crack on with it.
And then we picked it up and managed to find some numbers locally and get in touch. And
that's good, because if it had to do online, you couldn't get a hold of anyone, could you?
No. And then I also got the marketing manager. He rang me and I said to him, look, what can we do? Because we want them to come back to us and we want them to be recommending you as well. And I said they chose a villa because they wanted to be able to cook. So they got a £400 refund popped into their account. So they were quite happy. And then later on, they told me they hadn't intended to cook anyway. So they were really happy. But it got rid of the anxiety and
Yeah, definitely. And people are sometimes concerned that, it's going to cost me a lot more money going through individuals like yourselves. What would you say to that?
Basically, we are not as cheap as the cheap, but the cheap need to be avoided. So things like some companies on the beach, Love Holidays and so on, they're not in APTA, and you can make a booking and sometimes a few days later they say, oh, sorry, no, it's full. And if you want this, it's going to cost you more. When you make a booking with us, the price is the price and that's it. And there won't be anything like that.
No surprises.
Yeah.
Also,
we work with good quality suppliers, basically.
Our money is commission from the suppliers. So the obvious example, and the one we sold the most, is Jet2. Whatever the price is, you can go on the internet now. Very nice holiday, like Morocco, actually.
You pay the same or a little less sometimes than you would direct. So that's nice. But we put in the hours of research. If you've got a big family or you want a certain thing, sometimes that's what takes the time. And we just say to people, look, we've got time. We want the booking, so we'll do that work for you. It's that's how it goes.
I believe that having a quality service and reassurance and peace of mind is really important on a holiday, because people want to relax. They would want to be worrying about all these other things. So it's nice to know that you're there to support, with those situations. What other type of questions do people ask you?
The other one is, why don't we just go direct? We can book the flights, we can book the hotel over the internet.
I mean, book it separately.
Yeah. And that in theory should be cheaper, because let's face it, you're going direct to all the players involved.
But it isn't always.
No, well, it isn't, because one thing, the other players also know this, also know that people think that, and they've got a chance to sneak it up. The other one is the players we go through, they're big players. So Jet2 are already, they
negotiate well, basically.
They've already got deals. Quite often it's cheap, but much more importantly, the other trap is if something goes wrong. There was a power cut at Heathrow 3 months ago, no less, and what happens to that hotel that you've already booked all by itself in Singapore or somewhere? There's a good chance that they will look at the empty room, look at the money from you in their hand, and go, sorry, I don't speak English very well, and hang up. To be fair, COVID really brought that out for a lot of people. That precisely that problem. You couldn't get there, but there was actually open and waiting for you. To be fair, lots of hotels will do something, but
That's our security guard, Luther, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, we do. To be fair, some of the hotels will do something, but it's a very uncomfortable phone call. Whereas with us, oh, you can't get off from Heathrow. All right. When Manchester had a power cut, then somebody wanted to go on honeymoon that day and didn't. We arranged and we arranged a hotel just up the road and everything else at very short notice. But we could just, they could have said, well, we want our money back, and we'd have had to give it back, all of it. It costs the money. As part of the ABTA regulations, the money stays up in the cloud until everybody's travelled, and then all the players, including us, get our shares. And but the reason the money stays in trust funds and so on is so the government can access it. Because what about all the people that should have been planning to Heathrow and couldn't, or more likely an airline going bust, who's
right?
The government can access that, bring them back. So it's that protection as well that we bring to the party.
Well, that's good to hear. Tell me what's selling well at the moment.
Gosh, a lot of last minute bookings. Massive amounts of last minute bookings. May for us was better than February, March, April put together. It's the Canaries, Cape Verde, Mexico, all of the Med, America, all sorts of things. People going to the Indian Ocean as well, but a hell of a lot is Europe, isn't it?
Yeah,
a hell of a lot. Is Europe.
And is it hotels, all inclusive, or is it cruises, things like this?
Mixture.
The cruise market is picking up and up and up. There's more. Over the last 3 years, there's been 10 large cruise ships launched a year, and all that extra capacity is coming on. So there's a lot of interest from the cruise line to draw more people into. There's more advertising as well, but a lot more people get interested in cruise. It's no longer, well, tragically, people my age, and I'm 61 and up. It's now any age, literally. I was on the Britannia, an LP&O ship, and I made sure I did some videos from the kids club because I could get in at that time, just because I know of all these people who want to take their 6-month-old, 10-month-old, or 1 or 2 or 3 year old on, because the great thing about cruise ships is you can lose them. It's a large ship, but they can't stay lost. They can't drop on the beach. There's that level of
they have really good kids clubs and activities and entertainment.
Yeah, there's a lot to do to keep the kids happy, but there's also a lot to do to keep the adults happy. We have been in hotels where horrible kids, tragically including ours, running around because there's not much to do between 6 and 10 p.m. apart from run around in the same area that we're trying to have a quiet.
Yeah, you got to keep them entertained, don't you?
Yeah. Well, even better, there's other parts and areas to keep them entertained, and you know that they're not. It's not like go to the hotel next door kind of thing. You know, they are in a room. It could be 100 meters away. Doesn't matter. You know they're on the ship. You know you could find them very quickly in an emergency, but an emergency never happened. Then you know they'll turn up at the room sometime to sleep.
I think the thing is as well, though. I mean, so with cruise you can get a lot of multi-generational bookings, and the same with some hotels. But it seems to be harder work with hotels to find the capacity. But when it comes to cruise, so many people who've never cruised and are interested. They are a bit flabbergasted. They don't quite know how to do it, and that's where the fact that we've trained a lot in cruise, been on several ourselves, done hours and hours of training, invested in time going to cruise events in Southampton and on the continent. You've been to, haven't you? Those things have given us a breadth of knowledge so that we can try and match, you know, what the customers would really like and what the best offerings would be. Because the worst thing would be to put somebody on the wrong ship. It could put them off cruising altogether. Whereas if you get them in the right one, they will love it and they'll just keep on coming back for more. That's what seems to happen. It's a bit like an addiction, apparently, with cruising. People they find the one they like and that's it. They keep coming back for more.
Yeah, we're looking to do a Nile cruise at some point. So
that'd be amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So I understand that you speak quite a few different languages. How it helps your clients?
I guess because we sell a lot of Europe and Latin America. Spanish, French, German is what I speak. And there are times when it comes in handy, like last week when I had a multi-generational, multi-room booking that had been done partly as one big booking and then a couple of others. So on paper to the hotel, they didn't look like they were linked. But I always find it's easier with, especially in some hotels, you know, they've got lovely people who know a few stock phrases in a few languages, but to go into the nitty gritty, they might get a bit flummoxed. So me being able to speak in their language makes it far, far likelier that we'll get what we want. You know?
Yeah, it can be a challenge. Obviously, people expect everyone to speak English, but it's not always the case. So
well, they seem like they do understand, but they don't always. And in some cultures, they don't like to say no.
Yeah, exactly. They pretend they understand.
Yeah.
But it's important to have your language skills, to help.
It gets us apart. Not many people have it in travel, I think.
Yeah, with the communication piece, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have flights that you're told you've got about 11 months notice or something. Tell me a bit about that.
So the 11-month rule is, it doesn't have any impact on people like Jet2 and TUI because they own their own planes and they run their own holiday packages. But with other holidays that we pulled together using scheduled airlines, the airlines release the flights, they go on sale about 11 months ahead. Sometimes a little bit less than that, sometimes a little bit more, but that's a rough rule. So when we meet couples, especially if they want a big holiday that involves long haul flights, we try to speak to them about a year ahead of when they want to go. Nice. And then we work out when they would be returning. Then we guesstimate when the flights will be going on sale, and we call a supplier or two and say, are all the flights out now for this period? Yep, right, this is what we want to do. And then we shop around. And then what we even do is get people's full names and put the seats on hold to keep a lid on that element of the cost for them while we play around with which hotels, which safari, which whatever, they want in the middle bits.
Yeah.
So, it makes a big difference to the cost. Yeah. Because if they hadn't done that, if they come back a few months later, the price would just go up, because the more of the seats that are sold, the more the price goes up.
Indeed. Different times of the year, any best places to go? For example, in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, or end of the year?
Yeah. Well,
I've got post-its in front of me here saying best and worst. So Maldives, best December to April. And it's weird because when they're the best, Mauritius is often not so good, and vice versa. So you can usually find a part of the Indian Ocean that's good. In a sense, avoid the Caribbean when it's the hurricane season. But that's a long period. It's June to November. And really, when you drill down into it, it's mainly sort of mid-August to like mid-October that's the very worst. But if people are going to solid hotels, even these days, a lot of people still risk going there. One, because that's school holidays, and two, because it's not like it's a flimsy little hut that they're staying in. There are provisions. So many people go to Florida, for example, in the summer, don't they? And they know that they run the risk, but they also get, in a way, better prices for going there.
Brilliant. What advice can you give to travellers in terms of what to take with them and how to prepare best? Because people forget their visas, passports, insect cream, all sorts of different things that people, the right time.
Our best friend in terms of a resource is gov.uk. So if people are going to somewhere that's a bit unusual, like I had a multi-centre Far East recently, then right at the point of making the booking, we'd go through, yes, you need a visa for this. No, you don't for that. And some you get when you arrive, some you book them in advance. So we go through all of that at the time of booking. And then nearer the time as well, we check that they, understand, and that sometimes at the 11th hour, we've helped people with those if they've struggled. We've even done them for the odd client.
Yeah.
Technically it should be the client, but occasionally people really struggle and,
Yeah. What about taking injections and getting money ready to go, things like that?
That comes into healthcare, and neither of us are
But we
helps
usually
the
say
person.
just we send them advice from the gov.uk site, but we also say really just ask your doctor whether you're up to date with what you need
Yeah.
for those areas,
Brilliant.
because we can't really be responsible for those things. You know, it's better that the medical people do that bit. In terms of money, most of the time people go with plastic these days. People don't take a hell of a lot of foreign currency.
Right.
There are certain parts of the world where, well, a lot of the world where the dollar is just common currency. So if in doubt and you've got a few dollars tucked away, take them with you, because it might be easier than changing some more money, you know. If you're going somewhere and it's a one-off, try not to end up with too much of that money left, because otherwise you lose out when you change it back.
I see.
So euros and dollars are the most useful, aren't they?
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
So tell us how to get hold of you.
So phone, WhatsApp, email, Messenger.
Yeah.
Reply
Reply to a Facebook post or comment
Do
on.
you have a website or?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
What's your website address? Let me ask you.
AlisonCooper.notjusttravel.com. Our email is either alison.cooper@notjusttravel.com or tim.cooper@notjusttravel.com. But yeah, the website is https://AlisonCooper.notjusttravel.com.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brilliant. So
LinkedIn as well, obviously. We do a lot with LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
Like we support one another, don't we, on LinkedIn?
Indeed. It's wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.
A last few messages for people out there who are looking to book a holiday. Why should they come to you?
Customer service all the way through, including from the we think we'd like to try the Indian Ocean next year or something like that, and we're very happy to have that.
I'd also say the flexibility of hours. So if people, like our ex-teaching colleagues and so on, or if people work shifts, we've got some junior doctors that we work with, and we can be messaging them at midnight. They can't take a call, but they can send us a message. So, you know, and we've taken bookings at very strange times, but we do it because we want the business and we want to be able to be flexible for people.
And help.
If you need help in the morning, Tim's really good early on and I'm really good late on in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
It's lovely talking to you, and I'm sure you'll be making lots of families' holidays fantastic this year. And take care and see you soon.
Thanks, Raj. Thank you.